Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you. My name is VashSky, your host of today's ceremonies. And, well, I have another host, actually, too. I think is the right? My left? I don't know. I can never get that right, but I have another host because he is the ghost host with the most, returning to give us all information on Hollywood, both past and modern. It is the one, the only LW Ghost. Hello there, Lou.
Oh, I hope there's only one. No, because if there were two of me, I don't think I'd be beside myself. Every time you get lost about which direction to go, left and right and up and down, I always think of the famous Arizona bus driver who got lost because he had no sense of humor. Anyway, here we are at the tail end of the 4th of July weekend. And happy America to everybody out there, even if you ain't from here, you poor soul.
Absolutely. Yes. To our Canadian friends, to our UK viewers, well, celebration to you as well.
Yes.
But it's been a
happy
celebration.
Treason Day, as they call it in English. Anyway.
Oh, goodness gracious. FBI listening to on the call right now. We're talking about July 4th. Anywho's, it has been one big celebration at the box office as well, because Lou, I don't know if you saw, but whoa, talking about a franchise roaring back. There you go. Luis Fernando, that's it. Jurassic World Rebirth crossed $300 million and beats
and everybody
Minecraft
hated
movie.
it. All the reviewers I read didn't like it, but what do I know?
But dinosaurs, Lou. Dinosaurs.
That's what I was going to say. But dinosaurs. That's.
Yes.
I thought the popcorn bucket was cute.
But the popcorn buckets are also
little pseudo Ben Grimm orange dinosaur with the pop open head, and hey, if mankind had known that dinosaurs had popcorn in them, they never would have let them go extinct. That's all I've got to say about that. But.
It is the biggest
that's ScarJo taking aim at all those male gaze people, right?
G-A-Z-E, folks. G-A-Z-E.
I said G-A-Z-E.
It is the biggest global opening at the box office in 2025, with Scarlett Johansson shattering projections overseas with a $171 million 5-day international opening. Against Minecraft's $150 million and Lilo & Stitch's $160 million over 81 markets. Allied to its $147 million 5-day debut in the U.S., the new Jurassic World film with a $100 million production price tag, not even including marketing, hits a $318 million global open. That's the 5-day, not a 3-day, 5-day, but still pretty big. For sure. And
it just goes to show you, if you're going to go from a male gaze G-A-Z-E object to a quote-unquote girl boss, at least go after the bad guys with a gun, not with your hands and fists, right? Believability counts, I think. So.
Believability does count, and some people were saying that the plot wasn't entirely believable, nor the characters, but that's the thing. As we said at the top of the segment, it doesn't matter.
Why do we need believable plot and characters when we can have dinosaurs and swords and ScarJo? I mean, these retro piker stick in the mud people are just.
Well, for one that was far better received, looks like F1 doing very, very well indeed. In less than 2 weeks, F1, the movie, beats Napoleon as highest grossing film ever produced by Apple, Ford vs. Ferrari as biggest racing original film, and nears $300 million mark at the global box office, with Brad Pitt grossing another $56.3 million on the second weekend overseas, just a 37% drop from opening. Whoa! For a 184 cum over 71 international markets. This is big for a couple of reasons. One, at least in North America, F1 did not lose its IMAX screens, so that's one of the reasons why I think it was able to retain such a deep market share right there. And this is an original film, and so for an original film doing that well this fast is pretty remarkable. Lou, is the box office roaring back here, or
it's the holiday and people go to the movies, and what were they going to go see? Oh, there it is. That wonderful theater. The El Capitan.
Really good stuff. One of the premier movie palaces still left in Hollywood. Good.
Well, more than still left, restored to its former glory, and then some.
Yeah.
And I don't know, are they still doing the curtain show? Do you know? I don't know.
I believe they are.
Good. Good.
Because I think
if you all want to go Google something fun, Google El Capitan curtain show sometime. To it. James Horner wrote the music, and it's just fun.
The organ player is still there and plays the organ, which is absolutely fantastic. It's just a great atmosphere from what I've heard. Actually, watch a movie there. I was very close to actually watching a movie there myself, but unfortunately the scheduling didn't work out.
That's what they all say.
I would have loved to have seen it.
You'll get there before they destroy it, like everything they touch.
Yeah, I'm so very excited for that feature there.
Well,
But
everybody should have a bucket list, and that's a worthy thing to put on it.
you sent me a really good article on Brad Pitt, star of F1 here, and I just want to go ahead and give a shout out to the American Spectator. We owe Brad Pitt an apology. Seriously, in a culture obsessed with authenticity, Brad Pitt has mastered the art of authentic performance.
Yes,
I do agree.
Yes, he has. That's a fun article, everybody. Did we give everybody the link to that so they can go read it?
I'm going to give everybody the link right now in the
because you
chat.
should. It's a good piece, and it's about more than Brad Pitt. It's about our culture in a good way.
Yes. Yeah, it's in the chat right there for everybody to see it.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend checking this out because it brings up a lot of good points. And man, Brad Pitt, the dude, he can really act. And as the article points out, it's like we don't necessarily or inherently associate great acting with like an amazing face, right? It's like they're almost diametrically opposed to each other. Or at least that's the bias going in.
We used to have no problem with good-looking men being able to act their way out of a paper bag. But lately, you're right, it has taken the hind seat. So I don't know why that is, but this article explains it a little bit.
I don't know. It's but the author here, John McGleon, actually does a really good job breaking it down as to why. Hey, give the credit the man is due. I liked him a lot in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and
I was going to say, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
yeah,
the attitude that he shows towards the Mansons and it's a different modern kind of take on. I know what you're thinking, Puck. Did I fire 5 or did I fire 6? It's that wonderful contempt for bad guys to the point of ridiculing them. It's awfully well done, and
the tension brought up with that scene there is just so remarkable. And Brad Pitt plays it off excellently. Of course, you've got the finale that everybody talks about, but there's some really, really more discreet, subtle.
What is he holding? A piece of cheese?
He's holding an egg.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
That's Jurassic World. There you go. Right
See,
there.
I can't help it. I like cheese, and so I see that, and I think, Parmigiano Formigiano. Anyway,
the Armas. Apparently, there's. I don't have it up on this docket today, but there's a report out there that apparently Ana de Armas and Tom Cruise were developing a big action film with I think it was like a plus $250 million price tag, and I think a lot of studios that they were originally shopping it around balked, so they're still shopping it around. But it's a kind of an interesting story as well.
Give them a few weeks to make money on these hits, and maybe they'll be more open to it.
Right. That's
because they sure seem like they don't want to keep the money for very long before they spend it on something.
Also
I have often walked on those walks before.
Lots
but there's a lot of pretty men in those footprints. Gable and but anyway.
I was
rewatching Mission 7 to kind of get ready for when they finally put 8 on streaming, because I'm not going out for it. And God, I fell asleep halfway through. I'd seen it once before. It just, they gotta talk at you for so long.
Yeah.
Even good people talking is still people talking. They should all take their advice from Tuco, from Eli Wallach in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, when he shoots the guy and he says, if you're going to shoot somebody, shoot him. Don't talk about it. Anyway.
So Christopher McQuarrie is the director of the last couple of Mission Impossibles.
Yeah.
And he's partnered with Tom Cruise on a myriad of projects and all of that. I do actually think he's a competent writer, but he also, he's in that director-writer role. Do you think it's like, oh, I wrote this great stuff down, I don't want to like lose it? Do you think that might be part of why these things?
Sure, but who's going to tell either one of those guys no?
Yeah.
I mean, not only are they huge and rich and powerful, they're successful. It's like, could you be more successful if you weren't so damn verbose and plot heavy? And maybe, but it's like, this is how we do it. You do it your way. And I understand that. I just, as a consumer thereof, I'm less impressed with that than I am with, as I said to you, with Spectre.
Yeah. Like a tight script, a tight story.
Well, it's just not a reason for everybody to stop and talk for 20 minutes, ever.
Right.
Especially as a price to pay for, okay, now we get to the good stuff with the wing walking and the car crashing and the, I don't know. And Megan 2.0, they're talking about it being what? She's a socialist or something? There was some interview with the girl that plays it about she's a communist archetype, and isn't that wonderful, or something crazy like that. I don't know.
Ooh, that's no good. I know that people were surprised that Megan 2.0 took on almost like a Terminator 2 Judgment Day type of vibe, where it shifted from a horror film to an action film. At least that's what I hear. But some people are also saying too, it's like, well, are these more female-led films doing poorly because they are female-led? I think Jurassic World breaks that mold, at least somewhat. But
I got to tell you, if I'm back in the day when I was going out to the movies more often, which I'm now lazy, I stay home and have a pause button and a close place to pee, which is necessary for some of these epics.
Sure.
On Genre Guys, Hangry accused me of only liking long movies because I was picking movies for us to do that happened to be 2.5 hours long. And I said, no, it isn't about the length. It's about, can it sustain it? A movie that can't sustain itself for an hour and a half should not be 2 hours long. There's no doubt about that. But
right.
Anyway, let's see who we got. I'm looking. Was that Annette? Yeah.
I think that was Annette, yeah.
Yes.
I didn't even notice that when I was actually filming this. Yeah, Annette Funicello right there. Oh.
Yeah.
Recently saw a great photo of her with her like purple.
Her car. Yes, famous.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was so cool. But it's interesting. I know Brad Pitt had some comments here in Deadline. Brad Pitt discourages young actors from taking on franchises. Said his generation, quote, didn't sell out. By Glenn Garner, July 3rd, 2025. Although Brad Pitt has one of the biggest movies of the summer, he seems reluctant to embrace a new era of Hollywood. The two-time Oscar winner recently shared some sage wisdom as he admitted that his generation of actors was, quote, a little more uptight than today's young franchise-minded talents, explaining actors were less likely to, quote, sell out the early days of his career. I like watching what the new generations are coming up with. I like to see what they're up against and also the way they negotiate their way through it. I feel that they enjoy it more, he explained on the New Heights podcast. We were a little bit more uptight. It had to be about acting. You didn't sell out at Pitt. And now it's this thing of, hey man, we can be artists in many different arenas, so let's do it and let's enjoy it. But this idea that they also get caught up in, they have to have a franchise or have it be a superhero or something. I keep going, don't, you'll die. Very interesting words from Brad Pitt. What do you think about that?
I think that's fine. And I think he should stop becoming the old man in all these interviews, because the whole world will realize, and that'll be the end of him. I mean it. I mean, it's like he's great.
Yeah,
I
no, that's a
love
fair
him.
point.
But anyway.
I think like a lot of agents around Hollywood, especially with the rise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and so forth, we're telling people, hey, look, listen, the way to make it big is to get into a Marvel Cinematic Universe film, get your chops there, get exposure there, and then that leads to bigger, better, greater things. But I don't know if I've necessarily seen that.
I don't know that that's. I mean, that could be. There's a lot of stupid agents. It sort of goes with the job. But in his era, when he was coming up, it was get me a part in something, anything, anything. You know, I need the work and I need the exposure. And whether it was a franchise or an oddball, the only thing was, you know, avoiding things that might be embarrassing or career limiting. And obviously, there's nothing anymore that embarrasses people. So that's off the table. I don't know. Is it, you know, the advice to, you know, people, I have people all the time. Well, my grandson, my son, my daughter, gosh, they really want to break into the movies and be an actor. To which I say, where are they? And they'll say things like Kansas City. I said, you know, the old, I think I just quoted this, maybe it was on Genre Guys, or maybe it was here last week, about Alvin Karpis, the famous bank robber. People in those days were morally outraged by the idea, and they asked him, when he was finally caught, why do you rob banks? And he said, because that's where the money is. Well, the business is in Hollywood, even if it isn't. It's not in Cleveland. It's not in, you know. But I guess all I'm saying is, if you can get seen, whether it's a franchise or not, doesn't matter. Why an agent likes a franchise is, even if you're the second, third banana minor hero or villain or whatever, as long as you don't get killed by the end, you're going to be back for the next one, and they'll have work. So I just doubt. I can see. Well, even look at the people that look at the famous story of Sly Stallone holding out for being in the movie, or else he wouldn't sell the script.
Rocky, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, okay, but not because it was a franchise, but because it was, he thought, the best chance to show off what he could do. So anyway, I think people who take advice on those kinds of things from people are people who need a bigger piece of advice, which is go home. You know, I mean, when I was in film school, okay, a million years ago at wonderful old USC, there were people that I thought somebody needs to sit them down and tell them, listen, go be a genius chemist, go be a stockbroker, go be a plumber, go be something, but this ain't it for you. It just isn't working. But nobody did that. And so some of those people got through anyway. I know somebody, I got an email the other day from somebody writing a book about one of the shows that I was involved with. I've been looking up cast and crew people, and I see you're in there, and do you have any memories that I can share with my readers, and blah, 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 blah. And they also asked, because I only actually did one episode of that show, filling in for somebody, what I thought of the person who directed it. The guy who directed that show, and again, I'm not going to mention the show or the specifics, originally started out as the gopher for a very big director. I mean, he was the guy who picked up his pants at the dry cleaners. And he wound up, because the guy was willing to go to bat for him and get him a gig, he wound up being a director of sitcoms in Hollywood. Not a real good one. Not a real awful one, just kind of placeholder. But sure, try and tell him that, because by God, they were giving him all that money and giving him the job. And all I'm saying is sometimes circumstances, at least as far as career advancement goes, are a substitute for talent, or if not a substitute, a co-equal in getting work. So to tell people you should do this kind of film and not that kind of film is kind of silly. But
I think it is kind of.
He knows that.
Well, I thought those were interesting words for sure, because it's so hard to break out. It's so hard to get your chance or opportunity or get exposure or get recognized. That I would think that any gig, as long as it's maybe consistent with, I don't know, your brand, might not be that bad, even if it is attached to a major franchise. But what do I know?
It's okay to have a brand. Just stay true to your brand, and remember that the people who are hiring you aren't necessarily doing it because you have the same goal. Anyway,
we have an amazing, I will say, because I've been listening to it.
Good.
Our conversation, actually, an amazing backlog jukebox today.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, folks. If you look down in the description, and usually at this time, Vash sticks it in the chat too. You know, every week I try and pick out some kind of music that I think is worth listening to. This is the actual theme song, if you will, or themes songs of Epic Universe. Not the stuff Danny Elfman did for the Monsters, not the adaptations of the Harry Potter and How to Train Your Dragon and Nintendo music, but the original theme. Well, I say original. At the very end, it goes into a moment or two of the classic James Horner Universal logo song. But this is by a guy named Michael Kamen. And if you know Michael Kamen's name, you will know him probably for a couple or three things. Notably, the scores to Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins, one of my favorite movies. I actually have the poster on the wall behind me, as Vash knows. And The Last Starfighter. Great movie themes. He also did a lot of Seinfeld, sort of lower key, jazzy, all those little boom, you know, before scene things. But this guy, God, well, just listen to it and you'll see, but not while we're talking. It deserves not to be background music, but to be attention to itself. But it brings up a point I've been thinking about this 4th of July weekend, which is simply this. There is a phrase out there, and I'm not going to get political, really I'm not, but it'll seem like it, so bear with me, called American exceptionalism. The idea that there is something special about this place, with all respect to all of you and all those other places, that makes things different here. I would suggest to you that this music and this theme park and this thing we're seeing on the screen is an example. I happen to like a wonderful, one of the top comedians in Britain and soon the world, named Jimmy Carr. Now, Jimmy Carr does a lot of blue, off-color, funny but dirty jokes. And he even says, yeah, I'm a philosopher who happens to do dick jokes. I can say that, can't I? Richard? Anyway, but he's in a back to the UK pause and a long US tour. We're actually going to go see him in September in Nashville. And if you see that he's coming somewhere near you, you should go see him too. But I was watching, he gives some very serious interviews and he's got a very good book out. And he said that, you know, everybody says America gave the world three things artistically: jazz music, the Western, and stand-up. He says, then, of course, I perfected it. But he says, there's something else. And I call it a technology. It's the Constitution. The Constitution is a technological advance as big as any that you can cite in history, because it creates a place where great things can happen. Well, that's the point of this. It hasn't been that many years that all of us were decrying Universal Parks for being all about screens and laughing derisively at the Jimmy Kimmel thing and the Fast and Furious screen thing. And they listened and they made it better. But there was a time when people were kind of sick of, even if they didn't know it until they had an alternative, dirty, crummy, crime-ridden, sin-ridden amusement parks. Mm-hmm. And Walt Disney came up with a better idea. And the point is that the Disney people have given up on that better idea. And now Universal has come to the fore, listened to the critics, listened to their past problems, and come up with something new. And this music is symbolic of it. And my point is, someday, if we're all still doing this 10 years from now, we might be saying, boy, Universal was good when, but then they lost the plot, and these new guys, whoever it is, are better. And that is the process of constantly renewing, revising, reaffirming, reinventing. God, if you look at those videos out there of the fantastic fountain shows at Epic, and then you consider, and at the same time they were building this, Disney was doing what with their big fountain at Epcot? Paving it over with lights that didn't work and tripped people.
That's a great point.
What planet are they on? But somebody will outdo this, just as this outdoes that, just as this outdoes the Bellagio, you know. The point is, when Walt said Disney would never be finished, well, America will never be finished. And that's good. And it's not just about theme parks. It's about innovation, and about, if you take a guy who knows how to make a movie score and you say, here, score a world, this audio that I'm giving you the link to is what happens when creative people are given rein to exercise their talents in a way that is, well, trust me on this. You want to save that link. You want to maybe even wait till it gets a little darker outside and get yourself something liquid and turn off everything else. Don't be listening to it in the background. Nothing changes visually. It's that picture you see right there, because it's only the music. It's not a video. I could give you links to the video of the fountain show and all the other stuff too, but it's the same mentality that says, okay, we're going to have that Burning Blade Tavern that you just had, but we need to come up with two different formulas for the gas so that it looks good in the daytime versus at night. By the way, all this music that you'll hear, that's the nighttime version. There is a daytime version. Same music, slightly different orchestration because it goes with the dark and the lights versus daylight. They recorded something like 40 hours of original music just for Celestial Park, just for walking around and it being in the background. But it affects you. It affects your mood. It affects your attitude. It affects what your expectations are. And that, my friends, happens here in every field of endeavor. There's somebody trying to do it better, trying to do it smarter, not just trying to do it cheaper, not just trying to do it quicker. And in the process, art happens. All right, soapbox finished. But
I absolutely love it, Lou. That's
it's
absolutely
just, you have to remember that we were knocking these guys, and for good reasons, not that long ago, and they listened. They listened.
They sure did.
And someday we'll all have a good chuckle over what were they thinking with this Pedro guy. Whoever takes his place will not necessarily do it because, well, Brad Pitt told me not to take a franchise. See what I mean? It's everybody. Look, how many people? I look at this violinist and the guy playing Igor and the people in the wizarding world with the jazz musicians, and I remember the people at Epcot when it first opened. The Japanese guy who made figures out of taffy, and the Commedia dell'arte players in Italy, and there's always been creative people, and there always will be. It's just giving them a chance to shine and getting out of their way that matters. And some people say, well, show me what you got, and we'll find a way to make it work. And some people say, show me what you got, and we'll tell you you could do it for $10, not $20. And that's the differentiation of the world. All right, I went on too long. But anyway.
No, you're fine.
Somebody's mentioning, I'm reading the chat, Michael Crichton wrote some fantastic books that became even better movies, and a bunch that didn't. His wife is releasing the books he wrote under other names recently. And you can find them, and I've read a couple of them on Kindle. And she mentions the fact that he did those because he was bored with medical school and didn't think that's what he really wanted to do with his life. And when he finally decided he was going to write as himself a medical-based book, which turned out to be Andromeda Strain. He went to his faculty advisor or dean or whatever I think he was at Harvard or Yale, one of the big law school or medical schools, and said he was going to write a novel. And this guy looked at him and said, really? And this was not in the day of self-publishing when you had to get an agent and you had to get a publisher to back it. And they said, are you sure? That's very hard to do, Are you sure you can do that? Is that worth giving all this up for? And he had to smile and say, well, that's how I've been paying for being here for the last 4 years. Because he'd been doing it all that time anyway, just under other names.
Right.
Anyway.
Oh, wow.
Anyway.
That's incredible right there.
Somebody, let's see, Sean, the artist formerly known, etc. He's talking about the idea of global warming. First Jurassic and okay, all right. The other trend I've noticed, you've all read me talking about on That Park Place, the time lag between starting something and getting out there, and people thinking, well, the whole world will be on my side by then, so it'll work. And surprise, no, it didn't. As far as politics are concerned and causes and things, I'm noticing a really, really awful trend out there. I like good books with good characters, and because of that, there are a few characters in a few series of books that have outlived their author. And whereas in the old days, people would say, well, those are the ones he wrote, and those are the ones she wrote, and that's that. Now, the estates of these people are hiring other authors to keep the character going. Notably, the ones I'm talking about right now are Robert B. Parker, the Spencer books, and Hawk and Spencer and all the other characters, Sonny Randall and the great movies that were made of TV movies by Paradise of Jesse Stone, with Tom Selleck as the police chief of this little town in Massachusetts. Well, what the new authors are doing, you're reading along, it's pretty good, and all of a sudden, it's like they feel obligated to make a Trump is a jerk joke. Has nothing to do with the plot, has nothing to do with what's going on, but 3 or 4 times during the book, they have to virtue signal to their pals that they're with the cool kids. Boy, does that bug me. It's just so gratuitous, and it's so childish. Anyway, there's my latest pet peeve in the literary world. Okay, I'm worn out. Bring up something else.
You're fine. You're fine. I wanted to add just a little bit to that music-driven commentary that you had before.
Yes.
There was a time when Knott's Berry Farm, for a little while there, was playing pop music, like top, 100 Billboard type music in Ghost Town. And it definitely changed the area. Yeah, I just at the middle of the day, whether it be July or what have you, not for a special event or anything, but just as the ambient music for the park. And it was so absolutely bizarre, and it changed your perception of the place that you were at, right? And we talked about how, like, John Hinch used to talk about no contradictions. I think he even mentioned, you play Britney Spears in the middle of Main Street, it takes you out of it. And that's exactly what was happening with Ghost Town. And it's music is so important.
It does more than take you out of it. It makes it, oh, look at the imitation Ghost Town. Right. As opposed to, I'm there.
Yes.
It's what I said when we were talking about Jaws, about publicizing the mechanical shark. Yeah, great, swell. But it's not the same thing as, what the hell was that? And not knowing. That's 10 times scarier.
So true.
Eric Stan was talking about the Jesse Stone movies. They're supposedly going to make another one now that he's got time on his hands after Blue Bloods. So we'll see.
Oh, very, very.
And yet, it's funny, Eric, the guy who was the executive producer of those and wrote several of the scripts adapting the original books, he took a hand at writing the novels for a while, and they weren't any good. They just weren't compared to the originals, because he didn't have what Parker had. And the guy that I'm mentioning now who's doing it is Mike Lupica, who's doing those sort of, look, I'm with the cool kid jokes. See, now here's talk about girl boss. Oh, yeah, sure. We have girl outlaws robbing the train now at Knott's Berry Farm because equality. I wonder if she's talked to ScarJo lately.
Oh, boy. Well, Eric Stratton with the 777. Thank you so
Yes,
much. I
thank
love
you.
the Jesse Stone movies of old. I've rewatched often.
Yeah, they're wonderful. I actually bought the, my theme song, buy the damn disc before they trigger warning them to death.
Right. Exactly. Very much agree with that. Let's see here. We have a story here. I want to get your thoughts, Lou.
Okay.
Because we've talked about how AI is going to pretty much transform the entire industry right there, and how it might even upset Hollywood. Pro is very, very big into this. He might be doing a video on this specific thing that we're talking about. I'm not sure.
Ooh, we're scooping the boss? Ooh,
I think we're
what
scooping
fun.
the boss here. Pretty sure
boy.
we are.
Okay.
So let me go ahead. I'm going to play a completely AI generated trailer for a movie. I'm going to play it in its entirety right here. I passed it via YouTube, and it looks like it checks out. We shouldn't get struck by it. We shouldn't have the stream taken down, which is good, because I really want to play it. I give it the best chance, let's say.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and take us off screen real fast, play the entire thing. Lou, I am dying to hear your thoughts. So let's go ahead and do that right now.
I like the flag.
Wait a minute. Hey, come on. Uh-oh. Why isn't this working? This is
Gods
interesting.
of AI heard you. Oh, here we go.
Is it playing? Is it playing now?
How about a game of chess?
This is
So
not
far,
working
it's a little
out the way.
slow, is what my comment would be. Yeah, it's.
This is not working out the way I envisioned. Let me go ahead and see. Let me just check one more time. Not quite sure what's going on there. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do this the old-fashioned way, I guess. Goodness, StreamYard, come on! I'm trying to produce here. Okay, there we go. I got the
There we
loaded
go.
up right here.
Okay,
Let's go ahead.
Go for it.
It might be a little choppy, but we'll go ahead and go for it. Give us
Story
just
of my
a
life.
second. Thanks.
There are 5 holy blades that grant immortality and the strength of 100 men. The king has 1, and the other 4 were thought to be lost. But now, you have found one, and it has chosen you. The bond is forged, though incomplete. Only death can break it. And whoever kills you claims the blade. While you remain mortal, the entire galaxy will hunt you.
Stu,
I'm bored.
what did you think?
I'm bored.
Yes, it is very derivative, I will say, as all AI
that's
things
the
are.
word. That's the word of everything that ever was and ever will be. I love these things where they're going across these sandy planets with smoke and dust, and they have goggles on so they can see. The rest of their face would be pitted worse than my old car that went through a hailstorm. But they're kids, so they're pretty anyway. And this magical sword that everybody's after, well, it's just laying in the mud down there, and she knows where to find it, huh? And look at oh God, it reminds me, because on the Genre Guys, we just did the Antonio Banderas Zorro movie, and we're remarking about how much of it was not CGI and not fakery, but actual practical stuff. And there's a scene where Banderas is confronting the bad guy, and he picks up the Zorro sword, and it gleams from the sun from one tip to the other. And it's not CGI. It's an idea he had, and they took 3 takes and they made it work because he figured out where the sun was and just did it. Nothing just got done with this. It's just bald bad guys and blowing up spaceships. And I'm sorry, it's well executed, but in service to what?
Yes. I mean, so obviously it's derivative of modern science fiction tales.
Even that, look
I
at that
see a little
big
bit.
statue. Isn't that Lord of the Rings all over again with the 2 guys at the pillars of the...
I see a little bit of Lord of the Rings. I see a little bit of Rogue One. I see a little bit of Dune, all those type of things. And so definitely derivative. There's no question about that. But were there at least points at which you believe that you weren't looking at AI, or was it something that kind of took you out of it because, well, it had that AI quality about it? Your thoughts, Lou?
I'm old-fashioned. You know that.
Sure.
I could care less whether it's AI or not. I care whether it's a story I give a damn about and people I care about. And there was nothing in that made me give a damn. Except the first thing when I hear there were how many swords? Supposedly 5?
Yes, I believe so.
It's like, oh God, well that's called let's build in a sequel to find the other 3. Right? It's like if they're so rare and they're so special, I know we'll have 5, no 10, no 20, because
people have been definitely critical of this trailer here. They've been,
but it's a trailer for nothing, right? It's just made to show off the skill of the person doing it, right? There is no movie.
I think the guy. Okay, so I believe the guy. What his name is? Kamen, if I'm not mistaken.
Kid something. And
see if I can go ahead and put this on screen here. This tweet that I did share out in the chat. If you want to go ahead and see the trailer for yourselves, I know we had some technical difficulties there. Kamen, Untold, the Immortals Blades Saga. So beyond excited to share this concept trailer. Untold is a story I've worked on for over 8 years. Next year, we'll be making it into a reality with season 1 of this series. This project is probably the one I hold most close to my heart, and this journey we have been on has been beyond words. Discover Your Destiny 2026. So this is a
rule
project
number
coming to fruition,
1. Just because you're in love with your idea don't mean anybody else has to be. I mean, I'm serious. There's nothing in there that says, audience, I did this for you. I worked on it for 8 years, and it's my idea, and I've been doing so hard, and don't I deserve all kinds of brownie points for that? Answer, no, not even one. Not even one. I mean, really. I mean,
that's tough. That's tough.
Look, I'll give you a classic example, okay? The African Queen was shot in Africa. They all got dysentery and mosquito bites and danger from animals, and none of that mattered. What mattered was it was a great story and 2 great actors being in a relationship. This hadn't got any of that. This guy didn't even think to have one of his AI children say a word in this thing, did they?
So the first, we didn't play the audio, but at first you do have the one kid saying, "Is that what I think it is?" Let me see if I can play that right now.
Is that what I think it is? Boy, man, never heard that line before.
There you go.
Is that what
was
I think it is?
Yes.
Well, he's sure excited. That's why he closes his eyes and falls asleep after he says it. Well, look.
Jeez. Well, I think I look at something like this. I don't necessarily look at the content or the story or anything like that, right?
I do.
Now, obviously, if I'm going to watch this, those things are going to be very, very important. I'm not saying that they're not, but I look at this and I go, if what is featured were to change, to be maybe less derivative and maybe better in concept, I look at the quality of this AI and actually generating cinematic images or cinematic-like images, and I go, that's pretty decent right there. Like that's, there are some frames in there that kind of hard to tell whether or not they're AI or not, and so I think about the idea of producing works like this. I mean, this would have been a $300 million picture here if you were actually filming it. To generate it completely with AI, I don't know how much he's charging for.
But who cares if it's in service to crapola? Who cares? I'm sorry. If you haven't got, if it looks absolutely realistically perfect, as if these people are fighting each other to the death, that's not what matters. You have to care whether they live or die. I don't. I'm just so totally, and when you start from the direction of I'm going to make it look real rather than from the direction of let me tell a real story. I'm sorry, Caven the Kid. You have mastered a tool, swell. You're a journeyman carpenter, swell, but you still don't know how to design the furniture so that it brings warmth to my home. You see what I mean? I'm sorry. I'm beyond judging the quality of the images and disgusted with the ethos behind them. That's just me. I'm a stick.
I see articles like this. We have it at Park Place where you have industry executives believing that the movie theater industry doesn't. I mean, it might not have even 20 years left in the tank right there. And I think about, in the streaming era, I think it's an easy thing to say. We all get the business of that. But I also think about the AI era and how that might be transformative to all of this as well. And I thought that AI-driven cinematic fare was maybe 5 to 10 years away. When I see a concept trailer like that, I go, wow, if the content in it was stronger, I could definitely see this.
Well, see, here's the thing. The technology is going to move faster than you expect. And the quality is going to be even worse because of it. Because it's moving the technology forward that is the focus. Somehow, William Shakespeare told stories people cared about without AI. How did that happen? Somehow, John Huston made movies that people cared about without AI. How did that happen? Doesn't mean he would have turned it down if it was available, but it means he didn't start from the outside going in. He started from the inside going out. And look, all of this stuff, this thing about, I was thinking about this the other day too, and I'll tell you why. The thing about the industry, and they made all this thing about how AMC, or I think it was AMC, they said they're going to have like 20 minutes of commercials at the front of the movie.
Yes, now. Yeah.
I tell you what, though, I was watching a movie on Amazon. I pay for Amazon Prime, granted for the free shipping as much as for the movies. And they don't tell you. There's some with a little like a shopping bag that you're going to have to pay to rent or buy or whatever. But this was not one of those. It was actually, I finally caught up with the Jake Gyllenhaal version of Roadhouse night before last. And it was fun. It was different. It was good. But it says, this is only available with commercials. And all right, I'll watch 1 or 2 at the beginning. 5 commercials before they ever started the movie. And you can't fast forward and you can't go away. All you can do is what I did, which is turn the volume down and walk away and get a snack. So it's not selling anything to me if I'm not watching it.
Right.
But how is that any different than showing up at the movies and watching 20 minutes worth of commercials?
Sure.
It's all becoming the same thing. And what they're telling people is get there late, especially in this day and age when you reserve a seat. So getting there early to get a quote unquote good seat doesn't matter, assuming that you can find an usher to kick the punk in your seat out.
Right. I would have thought, I agree with you, Lou. I would have thought that this would have been far more viable maybe like 10 years ago when you did have to go to the movies early to get a seat. I remember going to movies like 4 or 5 hours early sometime.
Well,
because
yeah,
those movies
right.
were so
And then
popular,
I
so
remember
big.
when I was 16 years old, the first time I went to Europe, which would have been, let's see, 67, 8, 9, something like that. And in the theaters in England, they always had commercials. I was shocked. Commercials before a movie? I was shocked. But they did that then, and people were used to it. But anyway, my point is that as they desperately seek revenue, both the streaming services and the theaters are all going in the same direction, which at the bottom line is television 1965 or radio 1949. It's commercials. And so we think we come a long way and we come up with all these new ways to monetize things. Well, no, you haven't. I mean, I remember when the studios hated television because they thought, oh, gee, why should people go to the theater if they can watch it for free at home? But then as television became so full of commercials, along came HBO, and it was this, oh my God, it's free TV. But it's not free. You're paying for the membership.
Sure.
It's all the same. Excuse me. It's all the same. Somebody's got to pay the bills. And the idea is to make it interesting. And it's analogous to this whole AI thing because you know what? If the commercials were really good, you might not mind watching them. That music that I gave you all the link to played for 20, 30, 40 minutes before the so-called blue carpet premiere the night before at Epic Universe. But when it finally cut to the real show, the very first thing they showed was an awful, terrible, stupid-ass commercial for Xfinity, I think it was, or one of the phone companies. And I thought, you just blew all of that mood I was in to hell. And then on top of that, they had those awful punk influencer host people, and I can go on about that again, but you've all heard my rant. My point is, if you have the skill to establish that kind of wonder, don't blow it in the next 10 seconds by throwing crap in it. But
very true.
When your object is, I'm going to make it look just like the real thing. The only reason the real thing mattered was because the people in it and the situations in it and the characters and the plot mattered.
Yeah, it's you have to have those foundational storytelling principles, no matter what the medium is, whether it's animation.
Assuming you know how, assuming you know the difference.
Sure.
But when you then read this guy's post about it, saying, "Well, I've been working on this for whatever many years, and I've mastered these tools," it's a story I worked on. No, it's not. It's a project you've worked on, making it in reality. And making it look good and learning how to make these tools work. That's not the same thing as a story.
Right.
It just isn't. It's your story doing it, and goody for you. I'm sure your mother's very proud. Or maybe not. Maybe that's why you're doing it. I'm not going to get into your psychology. But who cares is the point. I said I gave you my honest opinion. I was bored. I was falling asleep. I wanted to come back when you came back to me with, but my nose is acting up today, and I couldn't do a good snore on cue. But I'll work on it over the next 8 years, and I bet I can do a perfect snore by then. See what I mean?
I see exactly what you mean right there. There's one more story.
Good.
I want to get to really quickly because I know we're trying to make it to Ron, the Bradley's Fun premiere, actually, of his newest video
Good.
there.
I didn't know that.
That is debuting in 15 minutes, so we don't have too much time, but I want to go ahead and get this really, really fast. So this story came out of the trades. Well, let's go ahead and put it on the screen. Variety, Sitter's producer says costumes were purchased from Marvel's Blade reboot that ended up not shooting. They had a, quote, warehouse full of period-appropriate clothes. This is fascinating on several levels because we had always heard that Blade never really made it past the development cycle. But now, if you're producing costumes for it, wasn't that kind of like pre-production?
Yeah, the first thing you sent me was this article, and you said, does this mean they'd gone beyond quote-unquote development? And the answer is yes, or they couldn't have spent the money.
Right.
Now whether these clothes were appropriate for sinners, or whether these clothes were more or less appropriate to buy from them than renting them from a costume house, which is, that's the other question is, if they had this whole warehouse full, how come they hadn't sold them to Western Costume or one of the major costume houses already? So I suspect there was some anticipation more than you read in that article. But so it changes the idea of what does in development mean?
Yes, absolutely.
If they actually had a budget approved and expenditures approved to buy costumes, then they had it for props and they had it for sets or location tie-ups or equipment rentals too. So if it didn't happen, what did it cost them to get it to that stage of it not happening? And where does that money get written off?
Right. Costume designer Ruth Carter was working on the Blade movie that ended up not shooting. He explained, at one point, that movie was going to deal with, and she's talked about this before, but at one point that film was going to deal with the past around the same era as Sinners. She happened to have a warehouse full of period-appropriate clothes, and it was like, yo, we got to shoot this movie like tomorrow, and Marvel was generous enough and kind enough to let us basically purchase it at price. Ohanian
Does she get the credit?
Quote,
for costume design? That's the question.
That's a really
what if it gets
good...
nominated? I mean,
yeah, and it's possible that it could. No, it's a big movie right there. So Sev Ohanian said this: a lot of background actors wore clothes intended for Blade, while the stars had original costumes.
Go back one picture to that thing of Blade in the red there with.
Right there.
Doesn't he look like? Don't you expect him to break out into too legit to quit? He looks like a Hammer in that picture, doesn't he?
Maybe a little bit. That's fan made, by the way. I don't know who made it, but it's fan made. The point though is a couple things. One, where did the money go for that development?
Well, look, we don't own stock in the company. We don't care personally,
right?
But it does mean that when you read about something that winds up stillborn after some development costs, that there may be more hidden in that development cost than you realize.
Sure.
They're actually already authorizing expenditure on clothing. So.
Right. And the other thing too is with, at least with this Blade concept, to have a period piece associated with the MCU in this way, and we haven't really seen that, at least since Captain America: First Avenger, or maybe a couple of other films that have dabbled in that arena right there. So this is a very, very, very interesting concept right here, and it's fascinating. I've never really heard assets being purchased from a film that was in development or
there have been things that already got made and then they recycle the clothes into other things.
Yeah,
but if you're being purely financial about it, obviously the definition of quote in development has now taken on a whole new meaning, and Valiant Renegade's going to have to rejigger his formula for what it really costs versus what they said it costs.
Sure.
So
it's just really, really fascinating, and it kind of shows you how the industry is maybe.
And by the way, when they said they bought it at cost, does the cost include whatever fee she got paid to design it, or just the actual fabrication of the clothes? See what I mean? There's many ways you can look into this and extrapolate possibilities. Nobody works for free. Even if they're an actor trying to get into a franchise, Mr. Pitt.
I'm pretty sure I would hope that a costume designer actually got paid, and the facilitation of that work was rightfully paid for. I think what they mean is they didn't turn necessarily a profit on it, but besides that fact, it's just a very fascinating. I've been following the Blade project for quite some time, and I just never knew it reached to that level until now. And like you said, it definitely changes the paradigm, because I remember your famous story, right, about reusing assets for something like I believe Lost in Space, or it was.
The room at Fox with all the computers that we rated. That was everything that had ever been in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea and Lost in Space and the Time Tunnel and yeah.
But then there's also the Wizard of Oz sets on the
Forbidden Planet for
Forbidden
the garden
Planet,
and Forbidden Planet. It was all Munchkin Land stuff.
It's just that happens a lot.
The phrase
right?
in the business is fold and hold, but at least those are movies that got made. They aren't movies that geared up and didn't get made. So,
and somebody who was really afraid of or against fold and hold was Stanley Kubrick for 2001. So we know.
He made a point of dismantling it so they couldn't use it again.
Right. So it's just wow. This particular aspect I've just never heard before, and I just thought it was utterly fascinating to see here. One more thing, Lou. One more thing.
Sure.
Indiana Jones, really fast. Heard about possibly getting a reboot. Him exactly. Do you think the Indiana Jones character, in your opinion, because I know that you're a huge 007 fan, you understand that franchise very, very well. Indiana Jones definitely a derivative of that in a very loose way there. But do you think Indy is a character that you could reboot with another actor in a not too dissimilar fashion that we see with 007? I had heard that 10 years ago Disney was thinking about doing this. What do you think?
I asked the same question. What's the story?
Oh, you think it comes down to story and not? Okay.
Well, it comes down to we love the character, but do we care enough to see it happen again without the story? One of the things that I had never really consciously realized, although I guess I sort of knew, is that actually the second Indy movie takes place first in the timeline. But it didn't matter because, by God, it worked.
Yeah.
Now is that was where I thought it was, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Temple of Doom.
Yes, that's Disney.
Or Temple of the Forbidden Eye, I guess. But, right.
But with some of that classic LA freeway bamboo. For those who don't know what I'm saying, when they were building Disneyland, they followed the freeway crews around, and when they were going to tear down a stand of very old, 150-year-old bamboo because it grew in Southern California, can we have that? Sure, as long as you get it out of here. And that's why Adventureland was so fully grown in when it opened, because they had transplanted all that stuff. So.
Oh yeah. I think raided every single.
The point is,
up and down
this character is not just he's an archaeologist and he's got a whip and a hat and a whatever, and he does adventures.
Mm-hmm.
It's about his. It goes back to your franchise question about Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Indiana Jones without him?
Mm-hmm.
Is it really? I'm not saying there haven't been video games and whatever, but it's the actor made it,
right?
And then he unmade it with that recent piece of garbage.
Ooh,
so
bad.
It was
so
it
bad.
Was,
I
know.
Yeah.
But
I don't disagree with you. But it's so indisputably linked, right? It's just you can't. I don't think you can ever unlink that.
But let's be clear. It isn't linked in the sense of, nobody can play it but Harrison Ford. People who went to see the movie, even if they had been Star Wars fans and seen Harrison Ford, they didn't see Harrison Ford. They saw Indiana Jones because he made him his own. If adventure has a name, it must be Indiana. What a great ad line that was. That was
I know, right? Isn't that great? Fantastic.
But we don't care about actors. Even Connery. We care about characters.
Yeah. Yep. I 100% agree.
And the proof of that is, not to harp on it again, go back to the second to last versus the last Daniel Craig Bond.
Yeah.
We love Daniel Craig as Bond, and that second to last one is wonderful, and they should have stopped. Then they went back to the well a few years later with a crappy story and a crappy interpretation, and all the Daniel Craigness in the world couldn't save it. Now, is that an AI? That looks like an AI. There's all these almost looks like them, but not really looks like them things out there on the internet these days.
Right.
Where they've got I don't know, famous actors selling hemorrhoid cream, and it's not them. Well, you've seen them, haven't you? I mean,
I've seen quite a bit on the AI front.
But on the other hand, God, whatever happened to her? She was so good and disappeared.
I know.
But on the other hand, have you seen the trailers for Liam Neeson as Frank Drebin? It's for Police Squad.
Oh, yeah. It's a Naked Gun.
It's not Leslie Nielsen, but it works.
Yeah.
Because he found a way to make it his own.
Right.
And he understands the joke. So,
Yep.
On the other hand, what if this Phoebe Feeble was around back when they made the first one? Would you ever have cast her instead of Karen Allen?
No.
Hell no. Hell
Not
no.
even close.
Hell no.
No.
Okay, so there you go. Anyway.
But it is, I think, very, very fascinating. Look, I mean, there's nothing really to stop Disney from doing this. They bought the entire Lucasfilm the library for what, $4 billion. They're looking to capitalize any way they can on that asset. Is what?
Yeah, look what happened last time when they tried. This piece of junk.
Yes.
Talk about track record of capitalizing on purchased IP. They're not too good, are they?
Not too good indeed, but we're pretty good right here. We gotta get out of here, Lou. We gotta get over to Follow the Bradleys Fun. Oh. So I'm gonna go ahead and promote you, Lou. Definitely check out The Genre Guys, because I heard, pray tell, that you guys just recently watched the Mask of Zorro with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Antonio Banderas. Very good.
All those Welsh people playing Mexicans. Or Spaniards or whatever, But
that's so bad.
And then we also did that bizarre, wonderful documentary that Lauren turned us on to, called Special When Lit, all about pinball. And if you'd like a preview of what's coming next, we picked our next two movies because we're now doing it like every other week. We're recording two of them. If you want something that'll scare the pants off you and shock your socks off, you don't need CGI and you don't need monsters and you don't need... Go look at a movie called Seconds, as in not sloppy. Seconds with Rock Hudson, of all people, and James Wong Howe's brilliant black and white photography and John Frankenheimer's direction. And it's a scary damn movie, and rightfully so. And then the other one we're going to do next time is a charming, wonderful, fantastic con boxing movie called Diggstown, with James Woods as the good guy and Bruce Dern as the bad guy and Lou Gossett and Oliver Platt. And it's just, oh boy, there's a couple of great pictures you will enjoy watching. So if you're desperate for entertainment, and God knows we all are these days, there's a couple of points ahead. And like I said, tonight, when it gets a little darker and it's, it's Sunday night and you're finishing off the long weekend, click on that music and just be swept away by the genius of this guy, Michael Kamen, because it's so good it don't need a theme park to go with it.
Indeed, right? Oh, so good. I love it. And don't forget to go ahead and send us your questions to 3PU.
Yeah, we need questions, because we got to pre-record one of these things pretty soon.
Yes, T3P online at yahoo.com. Definitely send us your questions. We need them. Otherwise, it's just, we're going to go on another AI rant. You don't want that. Come on, do the thing. Thank you so much for all of your support for our various channels and our networks. Thank you.
And we'll see you all Tuesday afternoon at 3.
Yes.
And usually I'm on Monday nights on the late night super double probation pro show. And
Yes.
that's what I call it, because we can get a little wilder at that hour of the night.
Sure.
Okay, so
And I think
that's what we know
just
so far. And those fun Bradleys are waiting in the wings, aren't they?
they're waiting in the wings indeed.
Which, be careful, because that's that great Larry Gelbart line from Movie where George C. Scott is the dying impresario, and he says, "That's the way it is in this business, kid. 1 minute you're waiting in the wings, the next minute you're wearing them."
Indeed. Oh, that's a great line right there. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're out, Lou. We'll see you all next week.